right. Well, for the first time in a very long time, I am here to say that I am bored. But at the same time, I don't think I've ever been happier. So it's kind of like this weird complex that I find myself in right now. But today, I'm exploring if boredom can be both good and in bad. So first, let me explain the situation that I find myself in. Like I said, I'm honestly very, very happy right now, like long-term, day in and day out kind of happiness too. It's not like these fleeting moments of like joy or pleasure, but actual sustained happiness. But at the same time, I don't really have that much going on right now, hence the boredom. Work has been fine. It's been very like low stress. It's kind of like lacking a challenge for me right now, I'd say. For me, my workload right now is very much dependent on my drive. So I spend a large majority of the day just doing like a solid amount of work to get ahead. Then I spend the remainder of the day kind of learning, researching information that will be beneficial to my work in the future. It's this very kind of like even handoff of get ahead with your work and prepare yourself for when things kind of get more hectic and you do get more work. I don't think this will be like this forever. It's just the situation that I'm in right now. I just started a new job. I'm like within the first like 60 days. And again, it's not a bad thing. Now let's talk about my relationship. We just got married at the end of December, and thank God all of that planning is now behind us. Like that was rough. But our upcoming honeymoon is all planned out for the summer, which is great, but there's nothing for us to really be working on right now. Like there's no struggles when it comes to her at all, which is amazing. You know, that's what you want. Then we have health. Physically, I've toned down my gym efforts a little bit. I was going like 4 to 5 times a week, but now it's more like 2 to 3 times a week. I think I was like really motivated to look good for the wedding. You know, I wanted to put on some extra weight, some size, which I did. So that was good. But now I can kind of find this little bit more like relaxed balance, I'd say. I also recently started getting like hurt a lot more often, which was no fun, like tweaking my back. And that's no joke. If you're in your early 20s and you haven't experienced this yet, back pain, just wait, because it comes out of nowhere. You know, 1 minute you could just be reaching for something and then boom, you know, like you are out of commission for like 1 to 2 days, you know, like you can't move. And it's like the most annoying thing to deal with because one, you can't even like see it. Like you can't physically see the pain. And with every like slight movement or deep breath, it's just like a reminder that it's there. So that's super annoying. Now, on a mental health note, things have been pretty good too. I've replaced some of my morning workouts with some meditations, which has been nice. I've been very like calm, very balanced. And creatively, I feel good too. This podcast is a great time investment every week and something I can just consistently spend time thinking about, whether it be like topics or research or making shorts. And honestly, it doesn't really ever get easier, I'd say. The process becomes faster, definitely, but trying to think of engaging things to talk about that are just prevalent in my life never gets easier. I'm consistently having to like take a step back with conversations or thoughts and ask myself, like, is there anything worth kind of discussing here for the podcast? For example, I feel like I'm always just passively looking for material in a way. But with all this said, I'm in such a consistent routine right now that I find myself just getting a little bored lately. And like, what a fucking privilege it is to be bored, right? Like, I'm not like discounting this. I've got no problems weighing me down. And I know I won't be in this state for a very long time. So I'm trying to enjoy this level of calmness as much as possible. And in 7 days from filming this, we'll be finding out where we're moving for my wife's residency program. And I know once I finally hear where we're going, that boredom is just going to completely disappear. I'll be consumed with deep diving into research and planning on where we're going to live, how we're going to get there, what we're taking with us, what we're getting rid of and leaving behind, how we're going to rent out our house that we're living in now. There's just going to be so many moving pieces that we're going to have to tackle. And strangely right now, I just have no anxiety towards it because I just don't know what to expect, I think. There's no point in me doing all this research on a handful of different cities and not even knowing where we're going to end up, like, in my opinion. So I think it's more of an exciting thing, like our next big chapter. But right now it's the calm before the storm, hence the boredom. And for me, this word, like bored, has just such a negative connotation around it. And on a personal level, I've learned there are a few words within the English vocabulary that can just set off your partner, right? And one of my wife's words is bored. She gets fucking pissed if I ever say I'm bored. Her listening to this episode must send chills down her spine. And I have no idea where it even comes from either. She must have just gotten in trouble if she ever said something like this as a kid. She never says that she's bored. I don't understand how she never gets bored. She never says it. Me, on the other hand, if I told someone I was bored as a kid, they'd be like, great, go weed the front yard, go wash the baseboard. So I learned as a kid to just keep my mouth shut. I remember during my summer break, our TV and computer privileges were limited to something like, I think it was like 4 hours a day. And if you're young Gen Z or Gen Alpha watching this, us millennials didn't have phones until we were like teenagers. And I think I got my first phone in probably like middle school, right? But they weren't smartphones either. Smartphones weren't even around yet. And you didn't have these like unlimited texting plans. You really just used your phone to call people. That was its sole purpose. But during the summer, there'd be like fucking nothing to do. I'd lay on my bed and just stare at the ceiling. It was way too hot in Vegas to go out anytime after like 10 a.m. It got to like 110, 115 degrees. And I had to strategically plan out my digital consumption, really. Like video games, maybe 1 hour a day. If I wanted to watch a movie, that'd be 2 more hours. And then Big Brother was a big thing for me as a kid. So Big Brother was 1 hour. So I'd have to parcel that last hour at night for that. And I was just so fucking bored. And I also have a sister who's 3 years older than me, but she was literally just repulsed by me until I got into high school. She was also a super big reader too during the summer. She's a librarian now, but she'd read like a 500-page book in a day. You never saw her except for when she like needed like water or something like that. And I'd just be so fucking ramped up and anytime she like came out of her dungeon that I'd just annoy the shit out of her in the first like 2 seconds. And if I were to pick up a book though, I'd get like 2 pages in and be like, this is worse than before. So I just put the book aside, stare at the ceiling again. Thankfully, I have a younger brother and there's a pretty big age gap between us. So once he came along, I definitely had someone to entertain. But back to my wife, I don't know if she like overanalyzes the word or what, but she takes it very personally when I say I'm bored. And I'm not saying I'm ever like bored with our relationship. I'm not ever asking her to entertain me. It's just sometimes I get bored, you know. I get very antsy very easily. Like I can't really binge watch TV shows like I used to or just do these like passive tasks for a long time. I like to really bounce around a little bit. For example, I really enjoy cooking lately, like so much. And there's just a lot going on in the kitchen. You prep, you chop, you sear, you bake, you mix, you clean everything on the way. Like there's just constantly like something to be doing, right? And lately, when I cook, I'm on fucking cloud 9. I light up, throw on some good music, and get to cooking. I got my little smock on too. It's quite the sight to see. If you ever want to like see me externally like having fun, I'd say that's it. But it's something that I can invest a solid amount of time in as well every day to combat this boredom. I think it's also just kind of like a big shock for me right now too, because I used to work so much. I wouldn't get home sometimes until like 7 p.m. and then I'd still have to make dinner and I'd just be exhausted by 8 p.m., right? Now I log off. I work from home. I log off at 4 p.m. and I'm like, all right, what the hell am I going to do with the next 4 to 5 hours of my day? Like that's a lot of extra time to get back on a consistent level. Apparently though, according to the Mayo Clinic, boredom is common, with over 60% of US adults reporting that they feel bored at least once a week. And boredom is also more common in Western cultures, and researchers think that this is the case because in Asian cultures, they put a lot more value in finding peace and relaxation, whereas us uncivilized people are more interested in finding excitement and or adventure, I guess. But let's look at the positives and the negatives of boredom, because surprisingly, it's not all bad. So the main call-outs I kept seeing over and over again in my research was that boredom can be associated with impulsivity and risky behavior. So impulsivity can definitely be a bad thing, right? But I don't think it all necessarily, like all impulsive behaviors or tendencies have to be bad. For example, I just bought a fucking guitar for no reason. I just said, you know what, let's pick up a new hobby. I'm left-handed, so holding a guitar my entire life has always been just like, it's felt super awkward. But, not anymore. I found myself a nice, cheap, left-handed electric guitar, and I'm excited to try out something new. And there's no real goal in mind either when it comes to this, which is nice. Like, I can just pick it up whenever I'm anxious or bored, and I can practice different little chords. But except my fingers fucking are killing me right now. It's only been one day, and my fingers are in excruciating pain from practicing. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or what, but let a guy know. In regard to the risky behavior, though, I can definitely see it both being a positive and negative depending on the type of person that you are. Like, I think taking risks sometimes can be a good thing, but some studies have also linked boredom to gambling and substance abuse or general behaviors that promise thrill, rewards, or overstimulation, which I'm not immune to either. I mean, lately, I've been smoking way more than I had been previously, just because I'm well, I'm not doing anything, so why not? One interesting take, though, that I found on this subject was from Sandy Mann, which is a kind of a funny name, but a senior psychology lecturer in the UK, and she's also the author of a book called The Upside of Downtime, Why Boredom is Good. But she says boredom can enable creativity and problem solving by allowing the mind to wander and daydream. And daydreaming can provide a brief escape from day-to-day life, which makes sense, right? But what was super interesting was her take on social media and digital devices, which I completely agreed with. She says our cultural attachment to our phones is paradoxically both destroying our ability to be bored and preventing us from ever being truly entertained. She said, we're trying to swipe and scroll the boredom away, but in doing that, we're actually making ourselves more prone to boredom because every time we get our phone out, we're not allowing our mind to wander and to solve our own boredom problems. So basically, as a society, we're just becoming addicted to the constant dopamine hit of new and novel content that phones provide. So one side I found, though, suggested a few productive ways to combat boredom. So first, volunteering at a local organization. I mean, come on, I'm bored, but I don't know if I'm that bored to do that, which I fully accept that makes me sound like a shitty person, but I'll get over it. Next, spending time outdoors, biking, hiking, or going on walks. Well, I already take my dog on a walk every day. I can't be going on multiple walks in a day. That's just kind of weird. I feel like eventually my neighbors are going to be like, where the fuck is this guy going all the time, Next, we've got teach yourself a new skill. Well, I just bought a guitar and my fingers are killing me, so check that one off the list. Try reading a book or listening to a podcast. I'll do you one better. Start your own podcast. It's way more time consuming, so already doing that one. And then finally, we have join a meetup group to connect with new people. Well, my response to that is I hate people, and that's where I draw the line. I'd rather be bored than have to hang out with someone. Overall, though, I mean, I'm kind of enjoying this time of boredom. It's a nice change of pace for me, I think. But that's all I have for this week. With only 1 week left until we find out where we're going, it's allowing for this kind of build-up of excitement almost. And I don't think this boredom is necessarily all bad. I don't think it's going to last very long either. I'm acknowledging this downtime. Unfortunately, I just struggle relaxing and turning off my brain, so I have to look for a lot of external things to keep me busy. I don't want to just mindlessly scroll on my phone all day. I want to find creative outlets that are productive and monopolize a lot of my downtime, like talking to a camera right now, for example. But that's all. I hope you had a great week. I appreciate you listening to this. Wish us luck for a big match day coming up next week. I'll give you guys the update next episode, and I'll likely no longer be bored, and my anxiety will just be in full swing. So that's exciting. So until then.